โมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะพุทธังธัมมังสังฆังนะมัสสามิ Blessings, good evening. One way that Lumpur Cha referred to people such as ourselves, people who are interested in practicing the Dhamma, learning meditation, reflecting on things. He called them seekers of truth. So if somebody asks, what do you do as a Buddhist? And you're seeking truth. Why do we need to seek truth? Because we're deluded, we're caught into delusion, and that's the reason we suffer as human beings. One monk asked Lumpur Cha, where is delusion? It's so hard to see, hard to know. He said, you're like somebody riding a horse asking, where is the horse? It's there all the time, affecting us. Delusion of attachment, craving attachment. If we weren't deluded, we wouldn't have any stress or suffering at all in life. So that's one way we can find delusion. Seeking truth is look at suffering and try and understand where it's coming from. When the Buddha travelled home after his enlightenment and he met with his family, his own son, Rahula, who was about 7 years old, and the very first thing he taught him was to not lie and have a sense of shame in lying. To see that it's such an unskillful quality, it's to be abandoned, because if you're really seeking truth and aiming to overcome delusion, then you have to learn not to lie to others and not to lie to yourself either. So the Buddha was an alms mendicant, shaven head, wearing robes, goes home. His son, out of respect, washed his feet in the traditional way, because the Buddha walked barefoot. And there'd be maybe a bucket or a container with water and a dipper. He uses the dipper to sprinkle water on the Buddha's feet to clean them. And the Buddha picked up the dipper after it had been used and said, somebody who can still lie, then there's as much goodness in them as there is water in the dipper. The dipper was empty or just had a few drops. He went on to say, if you still can lie, then you can cover up everything or anything. You can do any evil act or foolish act or something that will cause you or others suffering, and cover it up. You could say, if we can't be honest, then it's very difficult to get to the truth. particularly in terms of Dhamma practice, how to get to the truth, the origin of suffering, and then abandon it. You have to really want to see it, know it, find it out. We all know what being dishonest is like, because a lot of life, you're kind of pressured, or situations push you into not being fully honest with yourself or others in different situations. But it's something you have to aspire to, because if you want to remove craving from your mind, and that's the whole purpose of the Buddhist path, then you have to be seeking truth. You have to love truth, because falsehood or the ability to lie will cover over craving, so then it will just stay there, hidden from your own eye of wisdom, Dhamma, hidden from the eyes of others. Some people think if you're committed to not lying, then that means you should tell everyone everything. It's not quite the same thing, is it? It doesn't mean to say you have to say everything, because some truths maybe there's no need to say. But it's more that recognition that if you are covering over greed, anger and delusion, you're not going to be able to progress in the Dhamma. This is why the practice of Dhamma often grates, or there's friction with society, cultural values, cultural conditioning and so on, because it's quite normal in some areas of society just to hide the truth. So being one who loves truth and is honest, in some situations it's difficult. Other people are maybe telling you lies or acting in deceptive ways close to you, at work or out in society. You have to be with them or encounter them. Maybe some people even encourage us to lie in different ways. But this is what the Buddha pointed out is the beginning of the practice, seeking truth. That's the first thing he taught his son. He also encouraged him to practice making his mind like a mirror. Practice mindfulness and then reflect the truth. That's what a mirror does, a well-cleaned mirror. It doesn't lie, does it? That's why some people don't like looking in mirrors. If you feel you're ugly, or you have certain uglinesses in your body, your face, your hair, or whatever, or your figure, you don't like to see it because the mirror doesn't lie. When you're young, you tend to look in mirrors a lot because you're always trying to look good to impress others. As you get older, maybe it's less important. And then maybe it's even painful to look in the mirror. Or some people love looking in the mirror. If you feel you're attractive, good looking, then it can become an obsession. Imagine if you count up the number of minutes in a day you look in a mirror, number of days in a year, number of years in a life. You might work out that you spend hours, whole days, weeks of time looking in the mirror if you had it all out. That's why in monasteries we don't have many mirrors. Just enough to help you shave your head. But most monks, if they've been a monk for a while, they learn to shave their head without a mirror, just through touch and getting to know their head. But a good mirror will just reflect the truth, won't it? It just shows you what's there. So the Buddha encouraged us to make our mind like a mirror and reflect. Reflect so that we can learn about ourselves, so we can break through some of the delusions that we're riding on or caught up with. So the Buddha said, well, before you do anything, reflect, is this going to be for the benefit, the well-being of myself? Is it going to be for the well-being of others? Or is it going to bring harm to myself, harm to others? Get into that habit. Because every day we do things, don't we? That's karma, doing on the physical level. He said, before you do anything, reflect. And that can keep you out of trouble in many situations, because you may be about to do something that part of your mind knows is not good. Another part, the part rooted in craving, attachment, maybe it just feels compelled, forced to swat the fly, or take what is not yours, or do something a bit unskillful. We often have a battle going on between good and evil. We have to learn to reflect before doing. Get into that habit. Pause if you can. Depends what life is doing, isn't it? Sometimes things happen so quick, it's hard to reflect, but we aim to reflect before. And then during, you've decided to do that thing, then reflect again. Is this for my well-being, benefit? Is it for the benefit of others? Or is it for more suffering? My suffering, the suffering of others? And sometimes you engage in some act and you only realize halfway through that there's a problem, that it's not what you thought. It's going to lead to more suffering. And then the Buddha said, reflect a third time after you've done it. And if you notice that what you did was harmful to yourself, to others, he even said, reveal that to a spiritual guide, a teacher, or a trusted friend, a Dhamma friend. Tell them. This is where you're being honest, the opposite of lying. Sometimes we have to be honest and say, oh, I did that wrong. I made a mistake. I did something that I regret. The quickest way to learn in those situations is to actually tell someone that you trust, who won't use it against you. And then you become twice as careful, twice as mindful, as you've revealed where you went wrong to someone else. So this is practicing making the mind like a mirror, reflecting before, during, after. This is the gift the Buddha gave to his own son when he returned after being enlightened. And it's a gift that you can, the gift that keeps giving. You can use this system or this way of practice right through your life, to the last moment of your life. And it's not just for actions, physical actions, for verbal action, verbal karma, and then mental action, mental karma. We spend a lot of time in meditation doing this, getting to know our mind as we practice mindfulness, which is like polishing the mirror, getting to know the nature of your intention. mental intention? What are you identifying with, holding on in your mind? And is it skillful for your benefit and well-being, or for your suffering? Or is it for the benefit and well-being of others, or for the suffering of others? And when you have anger and you're holding on or indulging in angry thoughts, that's the reflection you bring up as you polish your mental mirror, bring up the mindfulness. Then the discernment, the wisdom can say, oh, this is suffering. That's the aim, to recognize the suffering in intentions rooted in greed, anger, delusion, jealousy. And you have to be honest. You have to say, even though there may be reasons why you're angry, say, or why you're jealous, or why you're caught into anxiety, it's suffering. That's the true reflection from the mirror of the mind, isn't it? Oh, if I indulge this thought, hold on to it, keep it in mind, I'm suffering. If I can let it go, stop thinking it, I'll stop suffering. So on the level of body, speech, mind, before, during, after, it's a way of practice, that a good habit, you could say, that to get into in your life. And you don't need to be meditating to do this. You can reflect, bring up the mirror of the mind, reflect, bring up mindfulness anywhere, anytime. You also have to have this wish to seek out the truth, understand things better, and take responsibility for your own mind, your actions, your speech, your thoughts, because no one else is going to do this. And even if you were living with the Buddha or a teacher who can read your mind, you still have to do the task of recognizing and separating the skillful from the unskillful, abandoning the unskillful, cultivating the skillful. You have to do that. They can't do it for you. All they can do is point the way. If you live with someone, you have a good teacher, well, they can support you in this, and they do lead by example, share their knowledge and understanding, and occasionally catch you out. So, if it's a Dhamma teacher like Ajahn Chah, then he's famous for just looking at people, looking at monks when their monk is thinking an angry thought or a lustful thought or greedy thought, whatever it may be. Just a look from the teacher may be enough to bring up the mindfulness. So it's like the external mirror of the teacher. It can be very helpful, but still the monk or whoever it is has to internalize that reflection, bring it in and say, oh yeah, Luang Por is looking at me and I'm angry, I'm greedy, I'm jealous, whatever it is. But the individual still has to do the practice, bringing up the mindfulness and letting go. Teacher can't do it for you. People find when they're with a teacher or in a place of practice, like a monastery, they tend to have a heightened awareness, so they're much more aware of their intentions, their thoughts, their speech, their actions. So it's a useful place to be. But still you have to dedicate yourself to that practice. You really want to love truth. You have to wholeheartedly want the truth so you can free your mind from craving and attachment. I think in that same sutta when the Buddha was teaching Rahula, he said you have to give everything, like the royal elephant that goes into battle is willing to sacrifice its life for the king, for the army, to win the battle. If an elephant goes into battle and it's fighting and it's doing its thing, but it's afraid for its trunk, so it protects its trunk, then they say the elephant is not giving everything for the battle. It's like someone who's still holding back in the practice, still hiding things from themselves maybe, or sometimes from other people. If you really want to root out the causes of suffering, craving and attachment, you have to really want to do it, and you have to give everything, be sincere. You even have to commit your trunk to battle. Maybe you can bring that reflection up when you're meditating. Have I given the trunk today, or am I still holding back? Because we all know when you meditate, sometimes you try, you're really committed, you give it a good go, and sometimes you just sit there and half-heartedly doing it, kind of casual, maybe falling asleep, maybe just caught up into imagination. Maybe there's something you really need to let go of and you're not. Anger is like that. When you're angry, you say, oh, I should be angry because this happened and it wasn't right, it's unfair, or that person hurt me. We're no longer seeing the suffering of the anger, we're now finding excuses. So that's delusion, isn't it? It's riding on the horse and not recognizing the delusion of defending a defilement. So we keep suffering. When you can't forgive, can't let go. Greed is the same. I deserve this. This is mine and this is rightfully mine. We're not seeing the suffering of attaching to whatever it is we have greed for. The enjoyment of pleasure that stimulates greed. How many times do we say, I deserve this, I need this? So we're aiming all the time to make our mind like a mirror. And the mirror doesn't lie. If you truly, your mind is like a mirror, it's just reflecting the way it is. And if you're honest, you say, oh yeah, this is craving, this is attachment, this is the cause of suffering. This is to be let go of. If you want a one-word answer, what is Buddhism for? It's for the end of craving. Sometimes people meditate and they're meditating to increase their craving, their desire. All kinds of people will teach you meditation and say, oh, meditate, make your mind powerful, then you'll get what you want. So you get people meditating, trying to focus their mind on what they want. They want to get rich, they're focusing on money or how to make money, or they want to get somebody to fall in love with them, so they focus on that person. And people often use meditation to serve the needs of craving, rather than to see craving. They're just using it as another tool to increase craving. Or maybe in your meditation you're sitting there making a plan how to get revenge on someone you don't like. Rather than letting go of the anger, you're just making plans to do more unskillful things. Even meditation we can do this. So of course in any other part of life, walking around, going here, going there, we may be doing it. This is why this reflection is so useful. You make your mind like a mirror and recognize the suffering that comes from following unskillful states of mind, through speech, through action. If the mirror is well polished and mindfulness is practiced, then there's no lying, is there? There's no deceit. You just have to accept better to let this go, give it up. It's the same with people when they have their doubt about karma. And they say, oh, I'm not sure about karma, cause and result. Is it really true that if you kill something, then it's going to come back on you? And say you kill an animal, or whatever it may be. Is it going to come back on you? Is it really going to lead to some kind of pain or injury or shorten your life? You hear the teachings and then doubt comes up because we can't yet see cause and result. But the doubt comes up really because our mirror is not working very well. It's not very clean. It's still misty or dirty. If your mirror was truly reflecting, just having the intention to kill, let alone actually killing, you already would see the blemish in the mind. You're hurting your own mind. You're hurting yourself. You don't have to wait until next life to prove that. You just clean your mirror in this life and you'll see. All the unskillful acts we can do, usually it's some form of breaking the precepts, or sometimes just wrong views, which are mixed up with that anyway. We're hurting our mind anyway, straight away. Greed, anger, delusion, clinging to wrong views, misunderstanding of truth, clinging to anger, greed, selfishness. Straight away, your mind is in a worse state. It's worse off. You're taking away your own happiness. You're doing or thinking or saying things that lead to regret. If you keep working on practicing mindfulness, you will see that. You don't wait till next life to prove it. You see it in this life, this very life. It's like the fisherman I knew, he just goes out fishing every day to earn his living, but he has a lot of faith in the Buddha, so he tries to meditate every day, does his chanting, every day he comes out, offers food to the monks on alms round. So he does many good things, but his mind is always unhappy. And he sort of knew it was because he was killing fish every day for his living, but couldn't quite come to terms with that, and partly because he has to look after a family, earn money. That's the way he earned his money. Often it's like that, isn't it? You have different things pressuring you. So there may be something you know is not quite right, not very good, but there's other things you need to do as well. So there's a balancing act going on. So on the one hand, this man is trying to look after his family. On the other hand, he's trying to practice what the Buddha taught, and he was seeing his own unhappiness till he finally realized, oh, this is not working. So he sold the fishing boat and bought a shop instead. He'd rather buy and sell things in the shopping mall than go out killing fish. And then his practice improved because he realized he'd done the right thing. That came about because he saw the unhappiness of killing. He was killing fish every day, And that was making his own mind unhappy, even though he was doing many other good things at the same time. He didn't have to wait a lifetime to prove that or understand that. He could just see the darkness or the lack of radiance that comes when you kill, and then didn't want that anymore, didn't want to experience that sadness of mind. So he stopped. And the Buddha gave these teachings for us to practice in the here and now, right now, to learn from our own experience. Today, you don't have to wait to understand karma. You can observe, you can practice mindfulness now, then your wisdom faculty, your discernment starts to operate. And you notice things, you observe things, cause and effect. If you hold on to a intention to kill or to steal or to harm someone else through your words, you're harming yourself right now. You can see that, you can know that. So karma is a very direct teaching, something to practice with. It's not something you just believe in or disbelieve in. It's a tool for understanding your own actions and their results. Similarly, when you make good karma, you can see the benefits of that right here, right now. You practice mindfulness, it's like a moment you're polishing your mirror, the mirror of the mind. The mirror brightens up, the mind brightens up. In the course of one meditation, you put a bit of effort into being mindful, even though you're working with defilements and distractions and sleepiness, of course, there's always that, but that effort you put in brightens the mind, and you can know that immediately. The experience of calm, sometimes there's feelings of physical well-being, mental well-being, or just insight, understanding arising. You understand your own mind better. And that can be experienced again in the here and now. You can see the benefit arising from training your mind, abandoning the unskillful, cultivating the skillful. You don't need to ask anyone else about it. You know for yourself. You don't need to wait for next life. You just do it right here, right now, and you know for yourself. So maybe I'll leave you with those words of reflection tonight.